It's not every day you get to talk with a professor who loves palindromes. Dr. Inan from the University of Portland is joining us today on the show. Dr. Inan, welcome to Spirit 105.3. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, me too, Erica. Thank you.
Thank you for talking with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
How fun are you? We have to start out with, what is a palindrome?
Yeah, a palindrome is a word or number or a sentence, and whether you read it left to right or right to left or forward or backward, it reads the same. Like, for example, number 33 is a palindrome number because whether you read it left to right or right to left, it's a palindrome number. You know, like Hannah, name Hannah is a palindrome name because whether you read it left to right or right to left, it's the same name.
That's my daughter's name, yes.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's great.
She needs to go out for Mexican or something. This is her day, Tuesday.
How does your expertise prepare you to deal with a day as interesting as this?
You know, I am an electrical engineer. I teach engineering. I have a PhD degree in electrical engineering. But as a hobby, I also have a lot of interest in numbers because sometimes I make numerical math puzzles from scratch. And I always look for special numbers with special properties, symmetry, square numbers, cube numbers, numbers with other properties. And I use some of these numbers in my math puzzles and so and so. But palindromes has been my interest, a lot of, my hobby basically. Almost a decade ago, my attention got to palindrome dates because I was looking for special numbers with special properties. And since then, I have been advocating for them. Every year when there's a palindrome date coming up or dates coming up, I try to convey that to my students, to other people, and try to get attention for them because, they are symmetric numbers. They have some sort of beauty, aesthetics, but also symmetry is so powerful in our lives, as far as balance, as far as biological structures, human body has symmetry, all kinds of interesting examples that surround us with symmetry, and palindrome dates signifies that.
It's just fascinating. I'm a person who doesn't really get math. I'm a reader and a writer. I love words. But just from hearing you say that, it makes me want to like math just a little bit more. So I want to ask you, growing up, were you always a fan of numbers? Was this your whole life, a lifelong love affair with numbers?
Not my whole life, but I always had interest in mathematics. I enjoyed mathematical equations, and I use mathematical equations. I use numbers when I teach my courses. I sometimes make problems for my students from scratch, and I play with the numbers of the problem to come up with nice results, round numbers, integer numbers as, the value of a physical quantity and stuff like that. So I have an ability to play with numbers, to observe some properties associated with numbers that maybe other people don't, partly because of my experience, could be also partly because I have some sort of special skill towards numbers. That's how I got interested in palindrome dates. And these dates that are symmetric, that are palindrome dates, and they occur on the same day of the calendar system, no matter what date format you use, I coined them as ubiquitous palindrome dates. And that's what I'm trying to advocate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you think we should all celebrate Tuesday, TWOsday?
Some couples get married on, they arrange their wedding on this day.
Yes.
And so I think how to celebrate what I did myself. There are two ubiquitous palindrome dates in this month. One was February 2nd, which didn't get as much attention. That wasn't a Tuesday, by the way. It was like Wednesday or something. I can't remember. But that also consists of 4 twos, 2-2-2-2, and it was a ubiquitous palindrome date. So what I did on that day, I found a small paper bag at my home, and I took the handles out, and then I wrote on it 2-2-2-2 and 2-22-22, and the paper bag was small enough so that it perfectly fits my head like a hat. So I put that paper bag on my head, and I don't need to hold it. It just perfectly fits on my head. And I wore it all day on February 2nd, and I went to my classes with it. I taught my classes while I had it on my head, and it got the attention of most of my students and maybe some of the people who saw me with that paper bag hat on my head. So that could be something you guys could try.
I love it. I just love it so much. Dr. Inan, before we let you go, you sound like you love teaching. Why did you become a teacher?
You know, there were some coincidences that made me, to be honest with you, when I was young, I wasn't necessarily thinking of, okay, I'm not going to do anything else but teach. But then early at my age, early college years and whatnot, I had the opportunity to work in an institution and do teaching. And as I did more and more teaching, I found out that this is something fun. When I have a subject, this could be a complicated subject, when I make the subject simple, easy for my students to understand, I see the spark in my students' eyes. You know, it's a different type of thing, you know, where you wouldn't get that pleasure or fun from other activities. So that led to me being a professor, and I was lucky to, get my higher education degrees, whatnot, and I not only worked hard, but I was also lucky. But I enjoy it, and I enjoy advocating for palindrome dates too, because whoever I share them with, whether it's a young kid in elementary school or somebody in their 60s, 70s, 80s, it gets their attention. It is intellectual. It is recreational. I'm talking about palindrome dates. It's recreational. And it's not as straightforward as one might think. Earlier you said, I'm not good in math, it makes me uncomfortable, whatnot. Palindrome dates are not so very complex because it's just symmetry that you look for, but trying to find how often these happen, how many of them do we have in this year, how many of them do we have in this century, that's not very straightforward. But when you come up with those lists, when you figure out when they will happen, when your birthday will be a palindrome day, and so on and so, it gives you a lot of pleasure, and that's what makes it unique.
I'm just hoping to find a couple of paper bags in the kitchen here at Spirit 105.3. Dr. Inan from the University of Portland, you are a joy. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the interview, and I hope you guys have a great Tuesday.
Thank you.